Good morning, everyone, and Minister, it's really an honor to have you with us. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. And I think as we start, just to acknowledge the work that has been done in the department under your leadership in terms of cleaning up, restoring the governance, and getting things going. We know that you've been really active on the illegal immigration issues, and particularly Operation Vulindlela, which I think we're going to get into during our conversation. But I want to start first with a recent incident which Elmar Conradi of SAFE is going to say thank you for. Because you were present on a flight not too long ago where you stepped in as a medical doctor and gave assistance to a passenger who was having a medical emergency. And we're going to have a discussion today in terms of how we're doing that with the visa system and what we're going to be doing a little bit differently in terms of going forward. To start with, we see this industry as a fantastic developmental, precious industry. It reaches into the far rural areas of the country, into the cities. It is culturally, it rides on the culture of the country, on our rich natural resources. It employs significant numbers of youth, 60% of the industry is youth, many women, small-owned enterprises. It's an inclusive industry. And we've heard from Auntie Pat in terms of the fact that this industry is being regarded differently, but she has to say that because that's her department. I want to hear from you, if you can just touch on in terms of the general sentiment from a cabinet perspective, from a government perspective, in terms of how the sector is regarded.
Well, thank you very much, Tanya. And let me greet my colleague, the Minister of Tourism, Minister Dilil, and the MEC for Tourism in Northwest representing the Premier today. Look, I don't think the tourism industry has got a lot to worry about. You've got a lot of forces behind you. The president of the country believes in Minister Dilil's job more than in mine, actually. because business have actually convinced him, together with his economic advisors, that without tourism, the economy of the country will not improve. And he believes that wholeheartedly. That's why he went all out of his way to put up everything to make sure that we overhaul and improve the visa regime of the country. You may remember that he appointed the former Director General of the Department of Home Affairs, Mr. Mavuso Msimang, to lead the reforms in the name of the structure called Vulindlela, which is in the presidency and in treasury. And they made quite a number of recommendations which were adopted in the last economic, the investment summit in March at the convention center in Sandton. And most of them, we are implementing them. By the way, we are implementing the recommendations of that Vulindlela. Some of them are process-based. The others are policy-based, where we have to change regulations, amend them, gazette new ones. We are busy with that process.
Yeah, and I'm going to go straight there because you've taken us. I think under Operation Vulindlela, some of the objectives was to implement the e-visa in 14 countries, including China and India. It was expanding the visa waivers and exploring visa recognition. And what we've seen when the report was made, the recent report, I think it was a week or two ago, is that that's been marked as being on track. It's making progress, as you've indicated. But they say that they're going to, in the second quarter, strengthen those reforms even further. And I wanted to get an understanding because I think there are many people in the room. We know that under those reforms are things like the remote work visa, which our colleagues in Airbnb are waiting for with anxious, bated breaths. There's the startup visas, and there's this trusted employer scheme as well. Do we have any indication in terms of the timing of those processes and how long it's going to take?
Let me start with the e-visa. On that one, the president will phone me almost every week to find out where we are. But I don't want the tourism industry to exaggerate their problems also when it comes to visas. Number one, not every country needs a visa to visit South Africa. And if I have to give you the figures, you'll understand why I say sometimes it's an over-exaggeration. On the African continent, 36 countries don't need any visa to come to South Africa. They just wake up, take their passports and go, including the whole of SADC. That's 36 countries in a continent of 54 countries. If you go to Asia, the whole of Asia, 20 countries don't need any visas to come to South Africa. If you go to Europe, 44 countries don't need any visa to come to South Africa. If you go to North America, 19 countries don't need any visa to come here. And if you go to South America, 11 countries don't. And lastly, Oceania and Australia, 3 countries don't. It's a total of 33 countries. If you have been doing your maths very well, as I was quoting the figures. It's 133 countries that don't need any visas whatsoever to come to South Africa, so they can't blame Home Affairs for any of the problems of maybe which tourism might be experiencing. Now, of the remaining countries, by last year, we have extended e-visa, because e-visa is there to facilitate free entry. I mean, if you understand how an e-visa works, you don't go to a mission, as they've been complaining. You do it online, at home, sitting in your own comfort of your own home. You apply, and you receive an email, and you take it and rush to the airport. That's as simple as it is. Now, last year, this time, we had 14 countries to which we have extended e-visas. We have now, in 1 year, added 20 more. There are now 34 countries. So it means in the whole world, a country is either visa free, it's either visa free. Either a country is visa free, 133 of them, or it has got an e-visa, 34 of them. I don't know who's left. And yes, I don't really know who's left. And I don't know what more that Home Affairs should do in that regard. And the story I'm telling you is with effect from the 24th of April this year. So that's the situation that I'm describing.
And there's been remarkable progress, and I think that's part of what we have to acknowledge. But there's serious problems. So we get, through the PPGI, a lot of the noise and the criticism in terms of hearing about what is the challenges with the e-visa system. And it seems like that e-visa system has been designed around the individual and not necessarily around the group bookings, and that there are challenges in terms of processing them and the capacity in that regard. Are there plans, Minister, to improve the capacity and to continue to strengthen the e-visa system as it gets implemented?
We have opened an e-visa hub, specially for you. Yes, especially for you. Yes, we have opened an e-visa hub, and we have recently populated it with 18 experts in that field who have been well trained, and their job is just to deal with the e-visas. The e-visa hub is situated in the corporate account unit. We do have a corporate account unit in the department which deals specifically with business, people who want to come here to establish businesses, especially after the President's investment summit. There are people who pledge, and say we want to come here and open up a plant. And immediately after the summit, they'll send you about 30 names or so of experts who must come. The corporate account visa unit deals with that immediately. But we do hear a lot of people who are complaining about delays. Delays, and backlog. And unfortunately, because of what the country is experiencing, if one person complains, it looks like 1 million people. Yes, I mean, that's practically what we experience every day. For instance, I'm always told about backlogs, which we know nothing about, simply because one person's visa was not finalized in a particular period of time. They go to the media, every single media house, radio stations, TV stations, talk about it. It looks like the whole country. So I'm not denying the fact that we do have backlogs, but we are actually dealing with them very fast. For instance, we hear about backlogs in terms of scarce skill visa. We don't build up such backlogs because we know what scarce skills means. We do get told about backlogs about study visas. Even the ones we have cleared, you still hear that. When you say, please, give us the list. Give us the list. We always say, give us the list of what you're talking about. It stops there, but it just goes to the media as a backlog. Now, I don't want us to work with each other like that. Because, as I've already told you, you've got the president of the country behind you. You have got Minister Delil behind you. Both of them want as many people as possible to come into the country. They've also got another force, by the way, behind them. My wife. Yes. She's here in the crowd today. She has been here from yesterday. She's in this industry. So she also wants as many people as possible to come here. So you
but
can
she's
see,
got an inside track,
so
which we don't have.
So you can see you've got powerful forces arrayed against me not doing something.
That one's more important than any of the others.
Now, I am with you. I also want as many people as possible to come here. The small difference is that I only want the right people to come here. Yeah. Yes, that's the small difference. I don't want scalums to come into our country. And now, Minister Delil and the president and my wife and the tourism industry, they don't know the scalums. I'm the one who knows them.
That's true.
And that's where sometimes there are differences, because I know the scalums. Yes. There was a member of parliament one day, a very prominent member of parliament, very prominent, who stood up to read a statement to attack me about a group of people from one country who were supposed to come here. I think it was a conference or something. And he was talking about how useless we are and all that, because he said we refuse them with visas. Obviously, I get angry. And I rush to my department and say, how on earth can you do this? And they said, look here, Minister, every single document that has been presented to us is fraudulent. What do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? This is fraud. And I meet this type of things every day, where people present to us documents that do not exist. What do you do if you are in my booth and you're running a country? The Department of Home Affairs was wrongly classified as an administrative department. In all destinations around the world, it is called Homeland Security. Yes, you in the tourism industry, by the way, you also want security, don't you?
Yep.
Because when one overseas visitor dies while visiting South Africa, it's a big story for you. Yes. And so I can't open up to bring an overseas visitor here and at the same time open up for a scalum who's going to kill that overseas visitor and kill your industry. So you must understand the balance I'm trying to strike.
Which is well noted. Thank you.
Yes.
And I think the applause is an indication that the industry recognizes their challenge. Speak to us a little bit about China and India now that we've just had the BRICS conference. We know about the BRICS business visa. Are there any plans in terms of changing the access and the way in which China, India, or any of the BRICS countries are managed from a tourism perspective?
Look, China, India, Nigeria, they constitute 1/3 of the world population. And obviously, the tourism industry would like as many from those countries as possible to come. That's why when we started with e-visa, we started with them. We sent people to China, but immediately after studying, COVID struck. That's another issue which people usually push aside and say this is an excuse. It's a reality. Immediately after that, COVID struck and we had to stop and we had to start all over again. But we started with these 3 countries for the reasons I've mentioned. Now, I'm sure your question is why are they not coming here visa-free? Because they are not part of the 133 countries I've mentioned, but they are part of the 34 which have got e-visas. Now, this is a very complex thing. It's a very complex area which many people may not understand or choose not to understand, unfortunately. When countries decide on e-visa 3 status, it has got nothing to do with friendship. It has got nothing to do with brotherhood or sisterhood. It also has got nothing to do purely with business, but it's to do with 3 things. And I'm talking about all countries of the world. They might not accept it, but that's what they consider. They consider 3 things. Number 1, the safety and security of people within the borders of that country. How secure and how safe is it? And that obviously cannot be known by everybody. It will be known by people who deal with that such security issues. Number 2 is to deal with the developmental needs of that country. And I'm emphasizing that because theoretically speaking, when you check your notes, they will tell you that visas are based on reciprocity. That's not true. Yes, that's not true, and I'll tell you why. It's something that countries talk about. Yeah, I need to reciprocate and all that. It doesn't work that way in the real world. It can work in a book. In the real world, it doesn't work. Reciprocity. You look at the developmental needs of your country, not the other country, yours. And why I'm saying reciprocity doesn't work. How do I explain the fact that Americans come here, all of them visa-free, but you can't go to America without a visa? Where is reciprocity? How do I explain that the UK, and they are our number 1 market in tourism, yes, in Europe. UK comes here visa-free, but you can't go to UK visa-free. You've got to apply. There's no reciprocity. How does it work? It's because that country may not need you, but you may need them. Yes. Yes. When I was giving the last one, is the sovereignty of your country. How much of your sovereignty are you going to lose by giving that visa-free? These are the 3 main determining factors, even though people might not accept that now. When we're giving the last set of countries visa-free status, one of them is Saudi Arabia. You still need a visa to go to Saudi Arabia. There's no way they are going to reciprocate. It's impossible, and I will tell you why. Because Saudi Arabia has got Mecca and Medina, which we don't have. So many people want to go there all over the world. Every single Muslim wants to go there, such that they have got to line them up. There are those who today, as I'm speaking, their time to go there is only in 5 years' time after applying for a visa. So they can't just allow anybody to come. They have got to choose very carefully. So you want to go to Saudi Arabia. Yes. Saudi Arabians can live without coming to you. But you need them. Because you need their money. So you give them visa free and they don't give you visa free. That is the real world. That's the real world. And do understand that I'm living in the real world. And that's exactly what we are applying. So when you do this visa free, you can't do it without state security giving you a go ahead.
Okay.
And you know, people in state security, they are, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
They'll give you an instruction and say, please don't ask many questions because you will not like to hear about the answers. So just trust us. We are saying this, don't do. And it ends there. So at the moment, what we have done is in terms of all these principles I've explained to you, and it has got nothing to do with BRICS, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. In other words, it has got nothing to do with blocks. Whether you belong to BRICS or ECOWAS or what, that's not considered. The things that are considered by all countries in the world are the three things I've mentioned.
Thank you for that. So Minister, I just want to jump back to the Operation Vulindlela, and then we're going to open up for, we've got an opportunity for 3 questions from the floor. Is that my understanding is that these reforms are going ahead quite rapidly, and that they need to, that's the remote working visas and the trusted employer schemes and this business startups, that's being processed in the next quarter, and hopefully those regulations are going to be ready before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The trusted employer scheme will be gazetted. I'm not sure whether it's October or December, but it's going to be gazetted. The remote working visa, we have accepted it in principle, but it's not depending on Home Affairs only. I was told it has got lots and lots of tax implications. So you need SARS to come in with their policies and all that. You need to change certain regulations. So we have accepted it, but it has to go through all those. It's not something that we can just wake up and do tomorrow.
Right.
All those tax implications and all that have to be dealt with, and the only structure that deals with tax implications is SARS. So we're working with them, and they'll give us a go-ahead when the time is ripe. Okay. But the trusted employer scheme visa, we are on it, and it only depends on Home Affairs, and it's going to be gazetted before the end of this year.
That's really good news.
Yes.
And then the last question, and you're not allowed to get angry with me, but I know you're more scared of your wife than you are with me, so that's it's not a problem. China at the moment, the real issue that is causing pain is the group visas. Because the group visas, the groups, when they come in groups. The industry is saying that the agents that are in China, and it's not just one, it's many agents, are indicating that the process is really difficult. The e-visa process isn't geared up for groups. There are requirements that make it very difficult for an individual to comply with, even if they are sitting at home on their couch, because they've got to have like 3 months of bank statements in English when they're not available. So there's things like that where they're saying that, and there's been huge delays also in terms of what they normally used to in terms of turnaround times, and it's disincentivizing the travel here. We know that that's a system that's been worked upon, but it's not happening quick enough. Is there something the industry can do to support that turnaround and make that work quicker? Is there something that is going to be done in terms of testing the system and making sure that it's optimized? Because that's obviously a key market from a tourism point of view.
Look, during the recent BRICS summit, everybody was panicking about China. I received lots of letters from business communities, some of them even threatening. We have got so many business groups from China. Are you going to cope and all that? China brought in the largest delegation here. We all gave them visas in time. Minister Ibrahim in trade industry and competition was giving me a list every day. People who complained to him that we have applied, and most of them were from China. And when we take the list, you look at it, you find that some of them have not even applied. They start complaining first before applying. And I said, Minister, but there's no application here. Why are you sending me this name? I don't have an application. No, but they send me as the name of the person. Tell them to apply first, then complain later. But the issue is we all gave them visas, every single person from China, regardless of how many of them are there. And you are aware there are 30 times more than us. But we give them the visas, yes. We give them the visas. Now the issue of groups, the e-visa is a new thing. Now when you start a new concept, you don't just go all out because you want to see how it works. That's why we started with tourists on the e-visa. It's not only the issue of groups, by the way. I thought you'll also mention it, business. Business people are complaining why they are not on e-visa. Study, intra-company transfers. Those are our next steps. Now that we have seen the e-visa, how is it working? We're going to add business visas, intra-company transfer, and study visas. Now you have brought this new concept of group visas. The e-visa was never meant for groups. It was meant for an individual who want to come here. Now it means we must go back, sit down and see how then do we accommodate this new demand of groups. Because as I'm telling you, it's not as easy as it's put on the table.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not going to be as easy as that because when we adjudicate on visas, we adjudicate individuals, not the whole group. We adjudicate on you. That's why, look, there was a story of a big plane, of a big millionaire, or billionaire, not millionaire, which landed in the Western Cape with lots of business people. All of them were allowed in except one, because that one did not meet our requirements and did not meet our legislation and tried to make a lot of noise about it and blackmail you. There's a word which is always used to make you run away so that you don't have to apply your law. Xenophobia. Yes. Whenever you apply the laws of South Africa and you don't apply them in such a way that it fits the convenience of the individual, they simply call it xenophobia. But I've never heard it in other countries around the world. It's unfair. That lady I'm talking about did not have any visa and their country is not visa-free. And they want you to push the laws aside for that one individual. No, we can't. If we're to allow them because it's a group, we're going to allow a person who's coming to the country illegally. No, it can't be allowed. And one of the things why South Africa is always undermined is because over the years we're not obeying these laws. And anybody can easily come in. You heard, and I'm really going, I may touch people's hearts and they might get angry, but I'm not a diplomat, by the way. And I'm not itching to work in diplomacy. I'm not at all.
Clearly.
Yeah, I like saying things as they are. You will remember that at some stage we had a problem of people from Afghanistan who wanted to come here, running away from the Taliban. I was very scared, if you know what the Taliban is. Yes. If you want to know what the Taliban is and how they work, please go and ask the Americans, not me. Yes. They were there for 20 years to tame the Taliban. They failed and they ran away. They ran away. The mighty Americans, with all the power and the might they have, they couldn't tame them. Now you have got people coming here who went to Pakistan. The Taliban moves in and attack them. They go to Qatar. Then they move over to Zimbabwe and Zambia. But when they come to South Africa, they apply for refugee status. You know what comes to my mind? What if the Taliban retaliates?
And why didn't they stop in all those other places?
No, they come here and you find suicide bombs all over. We are struggling to get rid of Zamazamas. What about suicide bombers from what you call? You know? What about suicide bombers from the Taliban? So I said, no, I'm not going to allow this. Their lawyer was asked, why are you choosing South Africa when you have passed many countries? Yeah. They said, no, we have studied the laws of this country. The country that is easiest to enter is South Africa, regardless of who you are. Then United Nations. United Nations Security Council established a prosecutor general's office, special prosecutor to prosecute for genocide around the world, to look for all the genocides around the world. They come here to South Africa. We have got a man called Fulgens Kayishema from Rwanda. That man, during the genocide in Rwanda in 1994, had 2,000 women and children running into a church for shelter when they were being killed. He put that church on fire. While it was burning, he was not satisfied. He went to look for this huge earth-moving equipment and to collapse the walls inside with 2,000 women and children. And he rushes to South Africa and he gets refugee status. The prosecutor general come here. Why is your country a haven for criminals? Why are you allowing them to come here? And I can mention many more. My job now is to make sure that as I deal with tourism, only the right people come here and the criminals stay away. That's exactly what I'm doing. It has got nothing to do with xenophobia. Yes. So for that reason, we are allowed to release. I heard Minister Patricia Dili talking about a green paper. We are allowed to issue ours a white paper because we want to overhaul the whole immigration system of the country and start from the scratch. We need to do that. If we are to save this country, we are going to overhaul it. We'll put the white paper here. It will be debated publicly. Some will howl, others will point fingers at them. They will threaten us, but we'll stay the course.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then in the meantime, your advice to the sector is they must give their list to Minister de Lille, who can come and pester you every day.
Yes, no, they phoned me, Minister Patel, everybody, and said, please phone us, let's be specific. And I forgot something.
Yeah.
The scarce skill visa, it used to be, the list used to be released every 4 years after we work on it. From the presidential summit, we agreed that it must be changed anytime you find a new scarce skill that is needed in the country. You gazette it. So we no longer wait for 4 years. I can change it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times a year as the situation demands. Yeah. That's another new change that we have brought in.
It is.
And I don't know why we don't fully applaud the issue of the trusted employer scheme, because it gives all the employers power to decide who must come and work for their countries. Yeah. It takes power away from Home Affairs to trusted employer, because all the requirements for a visa, there are lots of requirements, many of whom we have removed. All the requirements were actually gathered by us. Go and fetch this document, go and apply for this, go to the bank and do this. It was us. Now we have given it to employers. Everything we need, the employer must go and get and bring them to us. So if that delays, it's not us, it's the employer. The only proviso is that that employer must not be a scallum.
Yeah.
Because if he
We're
comes a
with you on
scallum
that.
once and we catch him, we take them out of that scheme. But if they are honest and they are doing business honestly, then the issue is in their hands as to when will their employees come or whatever experts they want to bring from any part of the world. As to when they come, it's in their hands, not in ours.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very good development as far as I'm
is.
concerned.
It is, and I think also the experience that many people are having with being able to apply through the banks as well is a
Yes.
similar process. So thank you for that. We've got time for 3 questions, and they've got to be short questions, please, a minute long, and keep to the point because we don't have too much time. I see there's one right here from the chairman. There's a lady over there. And a hand over here. Those are 3 people. If we can get the mics to them.
Hello, ma'am. Minister, I would like to inquire about foreign nationals.
Sorry, don't you want to stand up and just introduce yourself before you do? Just your name?
Just where I am.
There we go, hello.
I'm Raleigh Khwadi, owner of Kamukela Guest House in Mukhwase and member of the Moses Kotana Accommodation Association based here in Mukhwase. I'm inquiring from our honorable minister as to how far legislation or government is on appointment of foreign nationals vis-a-vis their work permits. Because these are very important people to us for this industry. I don't want to go far.
Thank you so much.
What's the question?
Let's take another question.
What's the question? I didn't hear
The question, and let me try and rephrase, is how far are we with the foreign national work permits? And I think that to some extent you've already addressed that, but perhaps we can fill that out a little bit. Yes, please.
Good morning, Minister. It's Michael Tolman. I'm the CEO of Cullinan Holdings, a tourism group in South Africa. Minister, we couldn't agree more, and thank you for keeping our borders safe. We understand that there are challenges always in every department, and that you have many. I just wanted to ask your advice. This week, we had only one group that cancelled from India because of the delays for visas. The group was supposed to arrive on Wednesday, and so it was cancelled for that reason. As a result, exactly as you said, many people will cancel without applying for visas. So one of our top agents has cancelled any further groups over the season, which is coming up right now out of India, because of the delays in visas which you've mentioned. I just wanted to find out and ask, and I understand that sometimes we have these things and they take time to resolve. Do we have any indications when that will improve so that we can go back to these companies and ask them to be patient and to book with us again when we're ready to receive them, ready to reduce that, the delays in those group visas? These are all groups that we're dealing with. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. And then we will allow the lady, and then we'll come to you, Chairman, and then we...
Thank you very much. The question I wanted to ask, Minister, was with the e-visa system. I know that the Chinese client base are having a problem because the e-visa system is based on Google, and they're having a problem because Google is not a easily accessible platform in the Chinese market. It's a technical thing, and many people are not able to do their applications properly on the e-visa process.
Sorry, your name is?
My name is Andrea. I am from the Cradle Concierge.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. Mr. Komani.
Thank you, Minister, for always grounding us on these issues. I think we've learned a lot about the e-visa regime. Minister, my question is simple. I know at some stage you were testing e-gates in Cape Town, and one of the complaints that I get over the weekends is congestions at different airports, more especially at OR Tambo. The question for you is, where are we with one, the e-gate system, and secondly, where are we in terms of making sure that when there's arrivals, we have enough immigration officers to process these people once they arrive here? Because that's important for their first impression when they arrive in the country. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. We've got a last one. I said 3, but we'll give you the last opportunity. And
Sorry, ma'am. It was
a quick
sorry,
one.
ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm Rosemary van Staden. I'm the chairperson of the National Accommodation Association of South Africa. I represent the smaller accommodation establishments. A problem that we have is that through the booking portals, we get bookings from foreigners. We don't know whether they have visas or not. They block our rooms, and then they just doesn't come, because the reason for going through the booking portals, they've got an address where they will stay, and then people come into the country sometimes without. I had a call personally from the airport where somebody was 12 o'clock at night and say, where the customs said they can't come through, and he was very upset. He got through, I don't know how, and he phoned me 3 o'clock at night from Johannesburg, from a hotel room, and said, I will get back to you because you stopped me from coming in. There was a way for me to coming in. And he didn't have any papers. But the other thing is, we need, I don't know if it falls under you or how we will start getting this the ball rolling. We need to have a blacklist. I know POPIA Act, everything is there, but we need to have a blacklist where we confidentially can just check who is the people that are not wanted. Because we as guest houses are a perfect hideaway for people because our systems are not as sophisticated as the big hotels. So we have hideaways that we unknowingly provide for them. But if we can see that Minister van Staden is wanted, then, or there's some things, then we just, and it's confidential. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. So there were a lot of questions in there. Thank you for those
The
questions.
first
We're going to
part of
try
the
and
question,
deal with some of them.
I heard the latter part about blacklisting and yeah. The first part of the question, can I understand, did he say there are people from countries who apply for accommodation but don't pitch up?
And we don't have the right visas, so they don't have permission to come into the country through legal mechanisms. But they don't know, because they're doing the bookings, whether or not those people...
Or because they book them in and they don't
Yes.
come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Minister, I think first of all, the issue in terms of foreign nationals applying for work permits, there's a process with that. That's through the business visas, in terms of the question that was raised there.
Yeah, look, on the issue of work permits, it's called the general work visa. The law is very clear, and until it is changed, if there's a good reason to, it will apply as it is. In terms of the law, it doesn't start with us. It starts with the Department of Labor and Employment. It says the employer must go to the department and the prospective employee of Labor and Employment and convince them that the work for which they want to hire that foreign national, there's no South African who can do it. I'm sure you are aware that countries protect their job market. It's only in South Africa where people believe we shouldn't. All countries do. So our labor law says you have to give proof that you are hiring somebody from another country, because there's nobody within South Africa who can do that job. That's proven by the Department of Labor, not us. Once they prove it, they give a certificate. You then take that certificate to the Department of Home Affairs to get that general work visa. And the Department of Home Affairs may not refuse once the Department of Labor issues such a certificate, we can't refuse. Because they are saying, yes, it's true, there's nobody who can do this job. Allow somebody from outside to come and take it. And it has been like that for ages, and it's still like that.
Okay.
Now, when the issue of Zimbabwean exemption permit, which everybody makes noise about, came into being, one of the offers we gave them was that we exempt them from going to look for that certificate because they've been here, they've been working. I gave them that offer, and thousands have started applying, and we give them that waiver. In other words, to say, you have been working as a general worker on a ZEP without any permit, but using a ZEP. Now that we want to terminate the issue of ZEP, we want you to apply for regular visas. We are exempting you from applying for a general work visa. But we can't exempt everybody. Yes, we can't exempt everybody. It's a special exemption for people who are on the Zimbabwean exemption permit. That they don't have to go to a Department of Labor, come straight because we are already doing a job. Now, so it must be understood that for a general work visa, that applies to everybody except those who want to exempt. Now, the second question, if I'm not mistaken, is about people who have cancelled because of a delay in visas. This is very unfortunate. We usually want you to contact us before time because I may not be able to answer here now what happened in that particular case. But sometimes when people demand to do this in a group, we advise them and say, look, we know you have got a bus full of people, but they must apply individually. Unfortunately, many companies believe they can apply for a group. We want individuals within that group because we want to check who is who. But we don't really want people to cancel their trips to come to South Africa on account of Home Affairs. I don't like that. And that's why Minister Dilil phones me all the time. Minister Patel phones me. We really ask them, the corporate account unit is busy. We are even encouraging many business groups to phone us and contact us on time. And I've just given an example during the BRICS Summit that we're demanding names only to find that there are people who are complaining and we don't have their applications. Then we'll tell you that this application exists, this one doesn't, this is where it is. Now, Andrea, this is World War now, Google versus what,
the Google platform.
Can we take it back and discuss it? Yeah. Because if I understand you, it's Google versus something in China, and we are caught in between.
Yeah. And you need different digital platforms. So it's a technical question, which I think is important to raise.
Can we sit down and discuss it? I'm not going to sit here and lie, because these are technical issues which I may not understand. Now, the issue of e-gate, yes, we are piloting e-gate because we would like to reach a situation where a visitor into South Africa does not have to come in contact with a government official. That's what e-gate means. That once you are on that system, you just walk through, and the equipment will recognize you.
If you're South African, or if you've got a visa.
Sorry?
If you're South African, or
if you are a South African, obviously, but if you have already logged in, even if you are a foreign national, if it can recognize you, even if you are just a visitor. But that is still in its infancy. And being a technology system, it will definitely have some,
teething problems.
Yeah. It will have some infancy problems, and that's where we are.
But the plan is to extend it?
The issue of OR Tambo. Minister Dilil has phoned me about it many times. I remember the CEO of Standard Bank phoned me about it. It's a small glitch because what's happening there is that there is a change of systems. IT systems are very complex. Sometimes you sit In a boardroom, they tell you how it works, and you smile, you are very excited. When you start applying it, it starts getting tantrums, throws itself into tantrums, there's a problem. There's a system we are changing in SARS that is causing us that congestion, but the Border Management Authority is looking into it. And remember, we're also in the middle of, we are in a transition. All the borders, including the 11 international ports of entry, the 8 seaports, the 53 land ports of entry, are now under a new authority, the Border Management Authority, which is controlled by a commissioner. So during some of those transitions, there's a confusion. 1,800 people had to be transferred from their departments, some of whom have been working there for 20 years, from health, from environment, from agriculture, and even from Home Affairs itself, immigration officers. All of them have been transferred to the Border Management Authority. So it does have some teething problems, and with a change of that IT systems, we will arrive because OR Tambo is the face of the country. If something wrong goes there, then you say the whole South Africa is wrong. And so we are aware of that. We are working around the clock to try and solve it.
Time frame on that?
The last one.
Just before you move off that, is there a time frame? Like how long do we think this transitional period's going to last?
About
On the
the e-system.
Yeah.
I mean the new IT system.
Yeah.
As to when they will finish. No, unfortunately, I didn't check.
Okay.
I didn't check, unfortunately. I apologize for that. But all I'm saying is that I want it to have been completed by yesterday.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
what I tell the commissioner every day.
Good.
The last one, the people who book in and don't pitch up, that is the scalum hood I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, it's part of these shenanigans I'm talking about. And let me tell you how it's working. I'm sure you saw me stopping some nationality there. I don't like mentioning people's nationalities because, it sounds like you're fighting people. But there are 67 people I turned away from there, from the airport, who were doing exactly that. They are abusing the e-visa. Because the e-visa have certain requirements, like the hotel in which you are going to sleep and all that. They've got no intention of sleeping in your hotel. They don't. They're just using your hotel's name to go in and disappear into the country. And you'll never see them again. And we're dead sure of that. So they apply to your hotel, you give them a booking, but they've got no intention to come because that's not their aim. Their intention is just to get entry into the country and disappear there. Now, what we are doing is this. Maybe we must start working closely together such that when people book, you must ask. But it's going to be a difficult one because we give them an e-visa. The people who turned away there, they were, all over the media, they say they were illegal. They were not illegal. They all have e-visas, which were authentic, except that they were coming nowhere.
Yeah.
Yes. They were coming nowhere. That's the part that worried me. What do I mean by nowhere? When you come here as a tourist, there's a destination. There's a place where you are going to go. Either you are coming to Pilanesberg or Kruger National Park, or you're coming to the beach, it's in Cape Town or eThekwini and all that. You can't just come nowhere. Now, when you sit with a person and interview them and say, of course you have got an e-visa. Where are you coming to? No, I'm coming to South Africa. To do what? No, I'm visiting the country. Where? In which part of the country? No, I'm just visiting South Africa. And then they give you details which don't exist. And they've booked in a hotel, sometimes hotels which also don't exist in the country. What do you do about that? Or they book in a hotel and they don't take that space. That is the new thing. And now it's going to lead us to do something which I was going to announce to Minister Dilil. Unfortunately, she's going to have to hear it with you at the same time. There are countries which we might have to remove from the e-visa system. If this type of thing continues, if they misuse systems like this, Now, this is what we have done, and we've been doing it from 2010. Some of the people who come here illegally, it's not that we don't know, and we also want you to help us talk to the airline companies. We have got a system called APP, Advanced Passenger Plan, which we did for the 2010 World Cup. It's a legacy project for 2010 World Cup. Any plane that departs from any part of the world must give us a passenger manifest electronically. A passenger manifest is a list of passengers who are in that plane before it departs. And we check in our system, we check with Interpol, who is this person, what are they coming to do? If one of them is undesirable, then we tell the airline that no, that one cannot come. You must take them out of the plane. Yes. Some airlines do not do it, they take chances. They believe we are fast asleep. They come in. When we catch such a person, in terms of the law, that airline must be charged 15,000 rand per passenger who's coming here illegally, and take them back at their own cost. Fly them back at their own cost. But there are those who still do that because they say the person has already got a ticket and all that and all that. Now, we don't, in Home Affairs, we don't blacklist. We V-list. We're trying to save the word black because it's being misused most of the time. Anything that is black, anything that is bad is black something. So in Home Affairs, we steered away from that. We V-list you. And any person that is V-listed cannot go through our borders because we also have a movement control system in our borders, which records any movement when you go in and out, provided you go in legally, of course. If you jump the fence, of course, the system won't work. Because, we put it in our, but it works very well, and you do check with us. Perhaps hotels might have to do that. I'll see if there's a possibility of open a special system whereby they can check who's V-listed, just like the banks check on our national population register directly. Yes, anybody who goes to a bank in South Africa, the bank won't serve you until they are sure who you are on the national population register. And they don't ask us, we've given them access. Perhaps we must find a way where we can give access to hotels if somebody is V-listed or what. Because if somebody who's V-listed books in your hotel, they are not going to come because we won't allow them. Yes. Thank you very much.
I think that's a fantastic idea, and it's something that we need to take forward. Thank you. So, Minister, we've come to the end of our session. I want to give you the opportunity, just if you have any final words for us that you want to leave us with before we thank you.
My final words will just to be that we're not enemies. We just have different responsibilities. That's all. Yes. Me and Minister Patricia de Lille are not enemies. We just have different responsibilities. And as I've said before, her responsibility is to bring as many people as possible to grow the tourism industry. My responsibility is to allow as many people as possible except the scalums. That's where then we start differing. So if we understand it like that, then we can work with each other to grow the tourism industry without bringing those who are going to destroy our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.
Okay. Thank you very much.